Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time to grab your board and head out into the waves. Well, not that kind of board. We're talking about nonprofit boards here with a woman who seems to know a lot about them and everybody on them here in Orange County. Nelma Maddox, welcome.
Thanks, Paul. It's good to see you.
I love your music. Really, the music is what starts the show.
Okay. Just say that to everyone. So today, I'm going to just launch right into it. I think it's important to just remind everybody in the audience why I do this show. I do this show because of the amount of nonprofits we have in Orange County. We have about over 9,000, I think was the first research I did. And so I felt it was really important to bring in those who do the work. Not so much board talk, but board walk. I think that's really important. So today my guests are Bill, Lyon, and Angelina. We are so excited to have you here. I do think it's important to talk about how we met. Bill, how do you remember how we met?
Well, I know it was through Pretend City, but I'm trying to remember exactly how.
Okay, fair enough. A very young board member. One of the very first boards that I was ever on was Pretend City. And it was back in 2016. This was when we used to do the board meetings at your office.
Oh, okay. Well, it was the first board I was on, so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to get into that
It's been
more.
20 years, so.
Wow.
Plus.
Okay, fair enough. So, yeah, 2016 for me, that's 10 years already.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Angelina's like, I was not even thinking about middle school then. But we'll get into all that. And Pretend City is definitely one of the important ones. But I also kind of wanted to hear how it is that you ended up on boards in general. And I think it has to do with your family. Fair?
Well, sure.
Okay.
So, yeah, Pretend City was my first board, and I have to give credit to actually Anne Marie Moiseau because, or Laster now, married name, but at the time it was Moiseau because I'd only been working I think a year or two, and she approached me and we were building in Ladera, and she was like the head of marketing for Ladera, and she was the current chair of Pretend City when they were doing mobile programs.
Oh.
And so she approached me about joining the board, and she's like, I'm trying to start this, like next generation of philanthropists. And I was like, I don't know, 24, 25. I was like, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing. And I talked to my dad about it, and he's like, oh, don't worry, like we're doing enough. And so I kind of said no, and then I can't remember the gap. Well, I know when I got involved because Angelina was about a year old, or not even a year old. And she was born in 2004, so it's right. So I probably got involved in 2004 through 2005. And I've learned this was a tactic, but I didn't know that at the time. But I got invited to participate in a steering committee. And there was only 3 meetings. It's only 3 meetings. It's a short-term commitment. And the tactic, I would say, was really worked because it wasn't a tactic to manipulate me. It was a tactic to get me to understand what they were doing. And once I did understand that, then I was kind of hooked. And I, felt invested in the project, which the steering committee was about this other mobile project. And at the end of that process, we basically recommended to Pretend City that forget this other mobile project, you should open a museum, which is what the goal always was. But they were going to raise so much money to do this mobile thing and kind of have, it was just going to be mostly sunk into operating. We were like, you guys should just go for the museum. And so that's how I got sucked into board work.
When we say steering committee, I think they mean roping committee.
Right? They were steering me. I thought it was steering a project, but it was steering me.
So now we know.
But no, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, and it was just like I don't think it would have been the right time before, but because I had a little, baby at home, and I was like kind of thinking about like how is she gonna grow up in the world and turn out okay, and she's growing up in Newport Beach, and the mobile program was like all about like careers and how you need everybody in the community to like make things work. And so that really resonated with me, all from like an aspirational side, like exploring things you want to be when you grow up, but also from a respect side. It's like, well, you can't really look down on anybody. Like if you don't have the grocer or you don't have the farmer, like you're going to starve. So it's like, there's all parts of society are important.
For sure. I think that's really great. So hearing that, Angelina, you were one when that happened.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about growing up around such a philanthropic family, because I
Definitely.
know it didn't just start with dad, and I know, grandma and grandpa were there too.
I would definitely say my first memories of being involved in philanthropy were with Pretend City. We were talking about a story the other day of an event that my dad was going to for Pretend City. I think it was a poker event or something, and I was really upset that I couldn't go because I loved Pretend City and I thought the event was being held there, which it wasn't. But once I understood that it was an adult only event and I couldn't go, I decided while my dad was getting ready to draw him a little picture, and it was him driving down in a car through the streets of Pretend City, and he ended up bringing the picture to the event, and I don't remember if it was an auction or a raffle or something, but it ended up getting sold for a pretty big sum of money.
That's adorable.
Yes, so I think that was the first time, and then people kind of knew me as the girl who drew this little picture that, did really well. And then I think just philanthropy in general has always been a big part of our family and our lives, from seeing it in my grandparents and then my parents, and then in high school. Well, before high school, I served on the youth board of Pretend City, and then in high school, I wrote and illustrated a children's book about ocean pollution, and then had the opportunity to do some children's readings at Pretend City, and then donated my proceeds back to Pretend City as kind of my part, and felt like it was kind of a full circle moment, because from the drawing I first did, I mean, I've always been a very creative person, but finding a way that I can incorporate my passions into something that will make an impact, and think that really came together in high school and even now. So
And
That's
can I interrupt for
incredible.
one
Yeah,
second?
go for
Just
it.
remind the two people listening who don't recognize the family name here. This is royalty here in Orange County. The Lyon name, your father, the general, built Coto de Casa and other things. Talk about growing up in that world. Did he encourage you to be a philanthropist? You talked about you want to encourage your daughter to do this. Did he encourage you to do this?
Well, like I said, I think in my 20s, at least the first time I was approached, when I asked him about it, he kind of said, just focus on your career right now. Don't worry about it. But
Because we as a family are already
Yeah,
generating,
but-
doing nothing.
But
Yeah.
similar to Angelina, I got drugged to all kinds of things when I was a kid, and I was generally like the only kid, or maybe one of two kids at the event, which she was at. I can't remember what year that was, when we had the party in the tent in Pretend City's
Oh, yeah, the
parking
big
lot.
gala, yeah.
And she and her girlfriend were the only two kids there, and they were up on stage go-go dancing with the flashback heart attack. And I thought it was cool, but I was also a little worried, but she's turned out fine, so it's all okay.
Phew.
I think that was the grand opening or something,
Because I guess the question is, does it get instilled in you if you grow up in that kind of atmosphere, or is it something you still have to come to and learn?
I don't know. I think it depends. Yeah, definitely. Having the role models, I think, is really helpful, and I think it just depends on your temperament. And I don't know. I can go back and think of experiences, whether it was going to fundraisers, but I'd say. And I know you wanted to segue into Orangewood eventually, but Orangewood, I wound up, I went to San Margaret High School. We had to have service hours, and I was short towards the end of high school, and we had to have so many hours. And so I asked my parents, I said, well, is there a way for me to volunteer or do something at Orangewood? And I didn't really, and this is the children's home, not the foundation, which does a lot of other things, but we can get into that. But the children's home is really was the first triage intake facility for, battered and abused kids that have been taken away from their families because there's bad stuff going on. And I don't know if I totally appreciated that. I knew it was kind of like a, orphanage, but
Right.
I'd probably I've been to, fundraisers. I'd seen Annie. I don't know what what I thought it
Yeah.
was.
It didn't come to life,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, but so an 18-year-old guy in high school, and they had to go to get a court order to allow. I think maybe it was my girlfriend or somebody, because maybe she wasn't 18. I don't remember, but a judge had to approve us working there, and I worked there for 2 weeks. 8 hours a day, and
And what drew you to that? Why pick that? That's outside of your normal comfort zone, or
well, it was the
background.
family thing. That was, I mean, my parents' kind of number one focus was, children's charities, and and they'd, been involved in all kinds of things, that I still hear about later. Like at some point, my dad was in the Tocqueville Society, and they were doing stuff for City of Hope, and they were doing this, and they were doing that, and but I'd say in the ATSC, which was a similar, I think, focus as Orangewood, but Orangewood, and I guess if it's okay, I'll go back and start at the beginning.
Yeah.
That probably
Yeah.
makes more
Because
sense.
it is a fantastic organization. We've had them in here numerous
Oh,
times.
good.
And I'll give you my 2 little-second take on it. I'll give you a different perspective on it. So my only child is adopted out of foster care. And she fell into foster care and was taking abuse and horrible things and stuff here, young age. And we're good Irish Catholics. I'm from Santa Margaret Catholic High School. And we one day heard about all these kids in foster care. 500,000, never go home to anybody. And we pull them out to save them, and we can't find them a home. So what do? We turn them loose and give them a check, and they end up on the streets in horrible situations. So Orangewood is a spectacular example of how they not just pull people out to save them, but help turn them into everything that they can be. And I think that's a world people just don't understand much about. So it's very near and dear to my heart. I adopted one of those kids. So
That's
I understand.
incredible.
You win. You win the day.
I win the day.
Actually.
I didn't say that to win. I'm
No,
just
I
saying
know.
there
You're
is
very
a
competitive with your hat on today, but
there is a
that
there's
for
a
sure.
consequence to the work that you do.
Yeah.
It isn't just, oh, that feels good, and let's move on to something else. You're really changing people's lives.
And I think at 18, like Bill's saying, it doesn't strike you then. It's only now that we're able to kind of reflect.
It wouldn't have to me when I was 18. I
no.
wouldn't have registered that.
You
I
say
would've-
that all the time. You're always like, oh, your son made you, your son says you made him do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
exactly.
I mean, eventually it comes into their heart and you really can't kind of stop it.
Right.
So,
But you want me to tell the story?
yeah,
Yeah,
I do.
please, right.
Yeah, please.
And let's get you a
And then
little
I wanna
closer to the
interrupt you.
mic.
Yeah,
Okay,
Get on
okay.
in there.
Right.
All right. So the real beginning is my sister Marcia, who's my half sister on my mom's side. So she's about 20 years older than me. So in 1973, she graduated from the police academy, became the first female assigned to patrol work in Anaheim PD. And
Wow, that's something right there.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. She actually wanted to be FBI, but they weren't taking women back then. So it tells you something. But but anyways,
It's another show.
so but
Yeah,
because she was a woman, a lot of her assignments were, okay, police have been called, they're at a house, mom and dad are going to jail, and there's kids there, and they need to go somewhere. And so the county's facility was called the Albert Sitting Home. And so she would pick them up and take them there, drop them off, middle of the night. And
Imagine your parents get arrested, and now you're removed and placed somewhere. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
and
hard
she-
to wrap your head around.
and she would tell my mom these horror stories of, well, it's like jail. Everything's gray. They don't have enough beds. Kids are sleeping on the floor.
Yeah.
They don't have enough blankets. I mean, it was, for whatever reason, in the 80s, I think I was reading something recently, like the child abuse thing just kind of exploded, or maybe it was just the awareness.
Right.
And so she would tell my mom about it, and my mom and dad got married in 1971. So this is a couple of years later, and my mom had worked in the company and was very close to the company and knew how it worked. And so one of the things she started doing is every year, at the holidays in construction, all the subcontractors would deliver, sweets and booze and stuff. And so she kind of, talked to my dad, and they kind of put the word out around the holidays, like, hey, don't bring us all that crap. Bring us toys, bring us blankets, bring us, these are the
Incredible.
things that
Great idea.
Albert Sitting Home needs. So I believe it was about 1983, so I was 10. They approached my father, and the guy that was running Albert Sitting Home, I think at that time, was Bill Steiner, who became
Was he supervisor? No.
yeah, he became a county supervisor
Right.
later.
Oh, okay.
But he had some prior experience. I think it was like Good Samaritan Boys Home or something. But anyway, he ran Albert Sitting Home, and so there was a group of people that sort of hatched this idea that they needed to build a new facility, and they really wanted it to be special and not institutional and not
Not jail for kids who've done nothing
Or-
other than have the wrong parents, right?
exactly. So And I believe, yeah, we just celebrated last year 40 years that
Incredible.
the home's been open. And I hadn't been since I was 18. And so my sister and I went, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's like Spanish style, little bungalows, you know, kids are divided by age, and there's lots of land. It was land that the county owned, and they basically, it was a public-private partnership. So I think the foundation was started somewhere in there, and the foundation raised like $8 million,
Wow.
and then deeded the project back to the county. And it's one of the early kind of models for the homemade
Yeah.
sort of
They use it
scenario.
as the model, yeah.
Yeah, because they basically, you know, my dad and others in the construction industry in particular called in all kinds of favors, got, you know, free roof tile, free this, free that. So they raised $8 million, but they probably built like a $25 million facility because, you know, the dollars went really far. And so it was, you know, he was asked to be the founding chairman by Bill Steiner, and that was kind of, given the history, that was kind of a natural thing. So yeah, so for why I, you know, and then I, like I said, I grew up going to these fundraisers, and then went and volunteered there, and you know, it was like my cousin, my girlfriend were like working with the little, you know, tiny like toddlers, and I was working with like preschool kids, and I wasn't the most hands-on guy with kids at that time.
Really? An 18-year-old guy?
For
Come
our
on.
listeners
Yeah.
who are listening, you can't see Angelina's face.
But, you
Worth
know,
looking at the YouTube.
we're sharing stories at night, and there was like one family that there were 4 siblings there, and one was a baby, one was like 2, and then there were 2 sisters in my group, and they all had cigarette burns on their backs. I mean, it was just
Oh God,
Yeah.
awful,
so sorry.
just awful.
Yeah.
And so, and then of course one of the girls like took a shine to me, and every day was getting in trouble because she was supposed to be doing something, and instead she was like trying to goof off and get my attention. And so that was the hardest part. As hard as, I mean, I didn't really think it wasn't really hard to be there, but to know I wasn't coming back and leave on that second Friday was really tough. And I didn't know how to handle it, and I didn't want to try to explain it to her, and I didn't know what to do, and I felt bad about it, but I was just like, I can't tell this little girl I'm not going to be back. Like, how do I say that? Like, it was just awful. So, but definitely made an impression on me, and I think I grew up knowing I was very lucky, and the longer I've been alive, the more I have appreciated that, especially
I'll tell you one little quick story that sort of relates to that one. So we're looking to adopt, and we decided to make that choice. We didn't have any children, and heard this church, so we said maybe that's for us. We was originally just going to be foster parents, and then we looked into it and started. So you go to places like Orangewood and other things, and I hate to say it, they have like almost like puppy fairs. They have kids on display and hoping that you'll meet them and then take a shine to them. And so we went to one of these things, and this cute little boys were all hovering around and talking to him, you know. And I said, he had a toy, a dog or a dinosaur. I said, "What's your dinosaur's name?" He said, "I don't name my toys." And I said to somebody later, I said, "They have already had everything removed from them. They create no attachments. They fight this idea." So the idea to tell somebody I'm not coming back, that's their whole life. Nobody's coming back.
Yeah.
And I have a little bit of maybe a hopeful Pollyanna view of that. that maybe, you know, you don't realize, depending on how old that child was at the time, looking forward, she could possibly be somebody who's sitting across from me at some point saying, somebody made an impression on me.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is why I give. And that's what Paul and I have noticed along the year, you know, just sort of over the months of doing this show. It doesn't matter. Some people start from nothing. Some people start with very little. And we know, Bill and I both know, that the people who give on boards, you know, there are people who will give $50, but that's because it's everything they had. It's everything they pulled together for a mission that they believe in. So we've had so many people come in here, but Pretend City's mission is the same. Orangewood tugs very hard at the heartstrings, and thank you for sharing that. I do want to shift a little bit to Angelina's story earlier about poker, because I want to give Matt Stewart a really hard time right now. Matt Stewart's the reason why I'm sitting in this chair.
And tell us who Matt Stewart is.
Matt Stewart is also a philanthropist in Orange County. He's a lot more generous with other people's money than he is.
He gives that away freely.
I'm teasing. He and Jill are incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible family. And Matt, I got Bill first.
Yeah, we did hear that.
Kind of what I wanted to
Because
say.
he came in today
the
and
whole
said,
time.
"This is my first podcast." Like, even Matt Stewart couldn't get him on his podcast.
Oh, I'm
right?
sending this to him right after. So,
Okay, all right.
Okay, Angelina, I promise to also ask this.
Sure.
Looking forward, when you're done with USC, making everybody proud,
And what are you studying, by the way?
I'm studying design, so specifically graphic design, and then I have a minor in
Oh.
entrepreneurship. So,
so your artistry has completely gone full circle.
yes, I like to say that I
Okay.
think the book really set me on that path, and I've
See?
stuck with it ever since.
Amazing.
So,
Okay, so when Pretend City is in Great Park,
mm-hmm.
I expect to see an Angelina Lyon
Oh,
mural.
okay.
there.
Of
That
her,
would be
of her
amazing.
work. Yeah.
Okay, we're working that in, right, Sandy? Okay, so when you are kind of looking back and you have a family of your own,
Mm-hmm.
where do you think you'll end up giving? Assuming I know you will.
What tugged
so.
at your heart?
I mean, I guess in high school I was really into ocean pollution, but now I think just seeing what my family's been involved in and what I've been sort of a part of since I've been so young, I really do think just, children and education. The sorority I'm a part of, our initiative is children's education and literacy.
That's
So
amazing.
again, kind of full circle with me starting the book, but I think younger children's education and literacy is really important, and I'd like to involve that in my own family one day. But even if it's not particularly that, I just think having the values of philanthropy and giving back in some capacity really does a lot for younger children as they're growing up, and I think it did a lot for me and changed my perspective on a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I hope to
Did,
instill
be
that.
honest, did you ever
Oh, that's
resist it when they said, "Oh, come on, we got to do this"? And you're like, "I don't want to do that. I'm going to go hang out with my friends or whatever."
Resist.
Honestly, I don't think so. I feel like my parents did a really good job of making it not only fun, but also sharing like the harsh truth of some of it and the reason why it's so important. So I don't think it was ever something that I really wanted to resist. As I saw that there was a cause, whether if I understood it completely at the time or not, I knew that there was some sort of need and importance to it. And
For sure.
yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking another element to that Orangewood story. So you fast forward. So Dad was the founding chairman. He was involved for a long time, and now the home is still there and still a county-run facility, but the Orangewood Foundation does all these other things and supports foster youth, particularly after they age out. And I'm actually not on the Orangewood board. I'm chair of a program board under Orangewood Foundation, which is the General Lyon
Oh, cool.
Workforce Academy, which is to try to take generally former foster youth 18 to 25 and help get them internships and with a career path upward and living wage type things. But my dad stayed involved forever, and he was, even when he wasn't on the board, he was still involved, but he kind of passed that baton to Frank Serene, who's our partner, and now Frank's oldest son Casey is on that board, and we have
cool.
Kyle on our board with Pretend City.
Oh, no way.
and
He's on there too?
No, Kyle's on our board.
Oh, Kyle's on our board. Oh.
You're my with Pretend
Yeah.
City board.
Okay, got it.
Casey's on the Orangewood board.
Okay, nice.
But you go, so 2008, my dad, I think Schwarzenegger was supposed to speak at the Orangewood luncheon, and there was
Who wouldn't want to go hear Schwarzenegger? Just to stand and say,
Yeah.
that accent and everything.
If he goes to the bathroom, he'll say he'll be back.
I'll be back. I like that.
But so there's a big fire, I don't know where, somewhere in California, so he couldn't come because it was when he was governor. And so they called my dad at like last minute. They're like, "Hey, can you be the keynote speaker for the luncheon?" And so Dad's like 85, 86 at this point, but he was still, he worked till he was 95. So he was, in his prime, still doing great, but I think maybe he was a little stressed. I don't know. So he's speaking, and I'm in China. She's home at school. I'm in China with her little brother, who was less than one at that point, on a Bowers tour, which coincidentally, another board I'm involved with. And my dad goes down at the podium.
Oh, no.
And after he gives his favorite joke when he's giving a public speech was, You know, people ask me if I've lived in Orange County all my life, and I tell them I don't know yet. And then he goes down at the podium, and the audience was a little confused.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
so he like fell over or something?
Just
Collapsed.
Oh man.
Tachycardia. You know, heart. He had a weird wiring thing in his heart they'd been watching since he was 40, and it had never done anything. And that was the day it
short-circuited.
Yeah,
sent his heart off the rails. And so there was a off-duty policeman and fireman in the audience. They started CPR immediately. The defibrillator at the hotel was dead, so that didn't work. So they kept going until the ambulance got there. And lo and behold, the reason why those two guys were there is because the policeman spent time at Orangewood Children's Home when he was a kid because his parents had been arrested. And so you sort of think of like,
oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
I don't normally cry.
There's a thread through all this. Yeah. Oh my God.
Karma, whatever you want to call it. But you think about, you know, not only all the kids' lives that were affected, but it's like, you know, it came back around to
one
my dad,
comes back to save your dad. Yeah.
And he had lunch with those guys every year, you know, basically until he passed, and we're still friendly with them. And
oh my God, what a story!
It was back of my head. I was like, I didn't finish the really like important part of the story.
I'm going to take you back though to the work you do. So you're on another. It sounds like you're on a lot of boards.
I'm on a few, maybe too many.
He probably gets steered a lot.
Steered, yeah, it gets roped. That's what that sounds like. I didn't think that steering has to do with cattle and
they don't
roping
leave Bill
them in.
alone.
So you talk about working with these kids afterwards. That's what shocked me. 500,000 kids roughly get taken, are in the system right now, and half of them ain't going home to anybody because they can't find a home for them, particularly as they age. Nobody wants damaged goods, you know. I want the little baby that I can still save. And so what happens to those kids? They age out. We took them out to save them. That was always the priority. Save the kids from the abuse, from the horrible situation. And then we don't save them. And we turn them loose. And they go down terrible paths, prostitution, drugs, homelessness, everything else, because they got nobody there for them. So finding them work, supporting them after they age out, if they don't make their way back home or to a relative or to a new home, talk about the work that you do, because I think that's critical.
Yeah, so this came up right after, well, not right after, but pretty soon after my father passed. And Frank Surian, who kind of took over the board work with Orangewood for my father, and then, like I said, passed it to his son Casey now. But he was still involved. And we all, you know, have lunch with Chris Simonson periodically because he's a great guy. But there was I think a thesis project that someone had done around, you know, how to address this issue. You have kids that age out, they have no safety net, they have nobody to kind of guide them into the workforce. Like, how do you make, you know, give them a fighting chance?
Because in some ways we make it worse. We pull them out to save them, and yet now they got nobody.
Right. And so someone had put this together for Orangewood, and Frank was aware of it. He approached my mom and I and said, hey, how about the three of us kind of put the seed money in to get this program going, and then we'll go raise some other funds and, you know, create a little endowment under the Orangewood umbrella to keep it going. And so we did that, and it's been great. It's small, you know, small cohorts of, you know, 8 to 10 kids, and they, you know, try to partner with companies that are looking to hire people and have trouble hiring people, and then they let the kids 18 to 25, youth, I guess, is more appropriate.
Right.
But they, you know, interview or kind of get to see a couple different options and then pick one, and they're getting paid while they're working, and it's sort of a year-long commitment by the employer that they're going to give them employment for a year. And then at the same time, the program on the Orangewood side supports them and supports the employer, because a lot of employers just don't know how to manage people who've had a lot of trauma. And so they were kind of explaining to me, like, things that we take for granted, like, you know, your car breaks down on the way to work, and they might just go, oh, well, I guess I don't have a job now. Like, I'm not going to show up, and
Yeah,
And they're
not that I'm not just going to show up.
Yeah.
I guess I've sacrificed my job. I've
yeah,
lost my
and,
job.
and they're like, no, just call somebody. Like it's not a
Call
big deal.
AAA.
Yeah,
But
call,
they
well, or
don't
just
know.
call
Yeah.
call your work and explain
Right.
it to them, and they help them with, you know, maybe getting a driver's license, maybe it's housing. You know, Orangewood has all these other
Yeah.
programs that kind of can feed into it, where they
Incredible.
help house them, and then the idea is, you know, these are jobs that they could make a career out of. It's not, you know, a no future job, and so it's been great. The companies have partnered with Orangewood on it have been great, and we just, you know, we keep trying to get the word out to more people.
Any hesitation of these companies to take on this challenge? Because these kids, that's the stigma. These kids have been traumatized. So, gee, I feel bad for them, but let somebody else deal with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. You'd have to talk to the program officers that are in the weeds with them, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't always work. Some of them find they can't, you know, they just can't do it every day, day in and day out. And then, but there've been tons of success stories. You know, people have been promoted twice in their first year before they really even got through the probationary period. But I guess there's been similar programs that sort of, you know, end at 6 months and everything's kind of going great. And the data kind of showed that that's when things fall apart. Like
Yeah.
there'll be some little thing that'll come up and they won't know how to deal with it, or the employer isn't, you know, dealing with it sensitively, and then it just kind of implodes. And so that's why the 12-month thing is really important. But I know Tate and Associates, Trevor Tate on our Pretend City board, they're one of the, there's probably like 20 companies now doing it, but they've had, some of them have had incredible success. The Olson Company, we had some former William Lyon Homes construction folks there,
Right.
and so they, you know, trained a couple of these young guys to be assistant superintendents, and they just, you know, with given, like, you know, the right coaching and the right
Yeah.
opportunity, like they're
Guidance and
just
modeling.
hooked up,
yeah.
and
that's
you
the
know,
message I got, not just from my own experience, but from the whole going through that process and learning about the world of foster care and adoption and all that. These kids are incredibly resilient. If you give them a chance,
Yeah.
they can do remarkable things. But most of them, many of them have grown up like wild childs, on the street, on their own, under severe circumstances, or removed from these homes, bouncing around all the time. They're really on their own in a way that I don't think any of us can grasp. So they,
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to say this. 30 minutes isn't enough with obviously Bill and Angelina, as you can hear.
Clearly.
He's on way too many boards.
can we get them to come back? It was hard to
Well,
get them to come to one
I'm
here.
going to
Can we
give
do-
them the just kind of the last couple minutes to just say, if there wasn't anything that you wanted to share with an audience today, please do so. I'll let Angelina go first, and then give Dad a little time to think about it.
Yeah.
But like, if you want someone to get involved in what you're doing right now, or kind of look to the future and anything, just kind of pop in your head as you're sitting here listening to Dad go down
Sure.
memory lane.
I mean, I guess somewhat inspirational something, but I just feel like, especially for people my age and younger, it's really important to find something that you're passionate about and try to make an impact with it. And I think, I mean, that's what I did with my book, but I feel like that's the easiest way to get involved, is if you can somehow blend, you know, your passion and then make a difference in someone else's life. I think that's the easiest way to get involved in really important causes. And I mean, I see that done in a lot of organizations at USC even, and that my friends are involved in. And it's really cool to see a lot of young people getting involved, like you said, in philanthropy so young, rather than something that you do later in life after you've, you know, completed your career.
Do your sorority
I love
sisters
it.
ever
Thank
look
you.
at you and say, "What are you doing? Come on, we got a party to go to. Why are you doing this stuff here?"
No, well, as part of our, I guess, sorority duty, we're all required to participate in our philanthropy. And every Friday, a group of us go to a local school and read to first graders there. And I
Okay,
feel like
we're
that's a
not
really
surprised. That's
fun,
amazing.
direct way to be involved, I guess, and see impact
Aw.
rather than just an indirect way.
That's
So,
lovely.
yes,
That's
yeah.
lovely.
Well, and the thing that occurred to me, because I think a lot of people, and you kind of said it earlier, when you, sorry, I was kind of leaning back.
That's okay.
When you think of philanthropy, I think a lot of people think it's, you know, sitting in an office writing checks and, you know, just doling out dollars to organizations, which is important, but
That's kind of what I thought. I thought, you know, you get roped in to write a check and to help raise money and to do things, and because charities are always short of
part of
money and they need money.
well,
and-
yeah, the money is important, but the part I was gonna say, and where the age factor, you know, because young folks generally can't do the money part as well. But for me, like Pretend City, my best like memories and why I really enjoyed being involved was, you know, it was still that way when you joined, but in the early days it was a startup, and you know, as a board member, like we didn't have a huge staff. It was, you know, can you read this? Can you tell us what's wrong with it? Can you, you know, help us with this bid? Can you, you know, it was, you know, sharing my experience and just, you know-how, whatever that happened to be in, or even just being involved in like the design part of it because it was cool. Like it was, you know, being able to be part of it, and you know, the money part is not that fun. It can be, I guess it depends, if you know, that's why we do poker and there's alcohol and all that, which
but
is
do
why
most board members, Noma, get to be hands-on, or is it they're at an arm's length from the real work?
It's an individual thing. I think you've heard me say this on the show a lot of times. It's time or treasure. Sometimes it's both. And you know, there's not a lot of people who are in the opportunity to do the treasure part, and that's okay, because if they have a heart to give time, sometimes that's even better, you know. So
yeah, and sometimes even if you don't have the treasure, if you know people who have treasure and you can make those introductions, that's really important. And like, you know, with the Workforce Academy, like knowing companies that like are struggling to hire people that don't necessarily need like college grads, that, you know, they just need people that are willing to like work hard and grind, like, and you want to do something cool and give somebody a shot who's, you know, had a lot of disadvantages, like that's incredible. That makes a huge difference.
For sure. So pretendcity.org if you want to look at Pretend City and see how to get more involved. And then for Orangewood, can you help me with their website? I'm sure you can look it up.
You may have to go look it up here.
Or Orangewood Foster Home.
Well, there's the Orangewood Foundation is kind of the umbrella.
That's what confuses people.
That's the umbrella.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the foundation is kind of all the programs, and that's where the fundraising happens. The home is really the county facility, which there is confusion because that's a county-run facility, and I don't think they raise money anymore.
Got it. Okay, that helps. All right, awesome. Well, thank you both for your time. I really appreciate you coming in. I feel like I have to have you come in again.
Okay, we can do that.
Thanks for
Thanks
having
so
us.
much. Learned a ton.
All right, thank you for joining us here today as we explore a world few of us really understand and all of us want to learn more about. That's the world of philanthropy and boards, right here on Board Talk. Only on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.